Hello everybody, my name is Lucy and welcome to Books and Brushes. So today, elephant in the room here, brand new bookshelves. If you haven't seen my bookshelf reorganisational video, which I think will be coming out first, if not it will be the video directly after this one, you can watch out for that, or I'll link it at the end of this video, whichever comes first. But I reorganised my entire bookshelves. Finally, I'm not on the floor, I'm on a chair. It's amazing. I'm so happy with how they look. But I will gush about these forever. So let's just get on with the video. Today we are closing out 2020 with the December wrap-up. The last wrap-up of 2020, and then the rest of my videos that are coming out in January will be all the stats and books I read in 2020 and like all of the 2020 wrap-up stuff. January is my literal favourite time to be a booktuber. I absolutely love it because I get to wrap up all of 2020 in one go, read through all the books I read, do stat videos. Oh, I love it. So stick around for those videos. But for now, let's just wrap out the last month of December, shall we? The first book I read in December was How It Feels to Float by Helena Fox. So this book was an audiobook that I started at the beginning of December and then finished nearer the end of December, so it took me like a whole month to read this book over the top of all the other physical books I was reading that month. This book sat on top of my whole December and it was definitely an interesting read. So this book is set in Australia and it's about a girl called Biz, or Elizabeth, whose father died when she was quite young, and it's about her going through school and mental health problems. It's all about how Biz sees the world and her journey. This book has all of the buzzwords. It's set in Australia, which, as you know, is something I really wanted to find. This one leaped out and I grabbed it immediately. It also has a queer main character and other queer characters in it too. It has talks on mental health and mental illness, all of these things. Yes please, those are all the things I love. I had to listen to this book and I'm glad I did. The book was quite odd in the fact that it felt like it had many stages. The book I thought it was going to be before I read it, and then the book it started off as, and then the book it kind of morphed and it kept changing in tone. As soon as you thought you know what the story was about, it wasn't. It was about something else. That was kind of interesting because it kept you on your toes, but also it was a little bit tonally strange. The beginning of the book, you think, okay, so this book is about this lesbian girl who kisses her best straight friend, whoopsie, and it's going to be about identity, queer identity, and you think that's what it's going to be about. And then no, it's not about that. Then you think, oh, okay, it's about friendship and it's about bullies at school and dealing with peer pressure and the negativities of school life, the pressure you can receive from friend groups. No, it's not about that. Okay, it's about loneliness. It's not. Okay. Oh no, it's about grief and family, and the book just constantly shifts. By the end of the book, I could probably tell you that this book is about Biz and her personal journey through mental health and illness. This book was very abstract. It was very philosophical and descriptive, full of imagery and beautiful writing, and how Biz saw the world, all connected with her mental health, about how she thought she could become one with the universe and not be here anymore, but she was kind of talking about dying, and it was all very airy-fairy abstracted thoughts, very similar to how Challenger Deep was, which I read in November. It was very interesting to see Biz kind of deteriorate through the different stages of the book. This book was very lonely. It was all about Biz and the numerous traumatic experiences she has in this book and how they all affect her, and how it all culminates to this really bad recipe that gets her in such a dark place, and all the events that lead up to this and how she intends on fixing it and going about a recovery in a way. It was a very odd book. It was interesting. I really loved the fact it was set in Australia. That was everything I could have hoped it would be. I really liked the aspects of how it talked about friendships, good friendships, bad friendships, friendships that leave, friendships that aren't really friendships, they're just people you know, friendships that are with people who are older, people who are your age. It centered a lot around family and Biz's family unit, and of course a lot of it centered around her dead dad. And I really liked about Biz's family unit, she has a mum who is a single mother now, and her two younger twin siblings who they call the twins. The twins were actually step siblings, but I really like in the book how Biz never really refers to them as that. They are just her siblings, and I really liked that. I like seeing different types of families in books and books that are about family. Me personally, I actually have a sister and a brother, and my brother is technically a stepbrother, but I've never thought of him in that way. He is my brother. I've known him since I was born, and although I don't see him often because he travels the world and I only see him every few years, he is my brother. He is not a stepbrother, he's my brother. So I never would refer to him as that. And then I have like other step siblings who I've never spoken to and I don't really know anything about. They are not my siblings, they are like my step siblings. So it all depends on like who you are and what your family unit looks like, and it's good to see different types of family units and to see step siblings be just your family, a real part of your family. So I really enjoyed that, and the interactions that Biz had with her mother, which got quite dark, and obviously the relationship with her father. In the book, her father's dead and she talks to a spirit version of him, and it's like her imagination so that her father can still guide her through life. life is quite sad in a lot of ways, and this whole book was very ominous and dark, but also kind of hopeful. Like I said, it very much centers around mental health and illness. There are a few trigger warnings in this book. For instance, suicide. Her dad did die from suicide, and Biz does talk about dying a fair bit. There's also a slight trigger warning for homophobia, not very much, but there is one instance in the book where a certain queer character gets spat on, which it's only one instance and it's not too horrific, but if you're sensitive to that in any way, that is in the book. It's not too graphic, but still not nice. This book as a whole just felt very lonely and isolating, so if you don't like books that feel that way, that could potentially be a trigger warning. I don't know. There is trigger warnings for near-death experiences, drowning. I feel like you can get the vibe of like the tone that this book has. It's quite sad, it's quite lonely, it's very isolating, and it's all about one girl's deteriorating mental health and loneliness, friendships leaving, a girl grieving over her dead dad. I'm really happy I listened to it. I thought it was really, really good. It had all of the elements that I really like. It doesn't have any romance, which at the beginning you think it's going to be about romance because the main character's queer and the whole kissing her best friend thing. That didn't really turn into anything. I don't want to spoil anything, but that's not what it was about at all. It was more about family and friendships than it was about romance, which is nice because I like contemporaries that don't have romance. I found out that most of my favourite contemporaries don't have romance in at all, which is great. Contemporary romance is really not my thing. Really enjoyed listening to it, but for some reason, I can't quite tell, it was okay. It had all the elements, all the ingredients to be something I would love. It being set in Australia, mental health, queerness, talks of depression, interesting thoughts in mental illness and imagery, all of those elements. But for some reason, at the end of finishing the book, I thought, yeah, that was okay. It was a fun read. Well, maybe not fun. It was a fine read. It was good, but I didn't love it. It didn't nestle its way into my heart. I probably am not going to reread it. So I don't know exactly why. It should have been something I loved. It had all of the ingredients, but maybe it just didn't quite cook right for me. I don't know. I recommend it if it sounds good to you. It was a really good listen. Like I said, I listened to it on audiobook, so that was really fun. The reader who did the audiobook was really good. Also, it helped the main character had the Australian accent, so when I was listening to the book, I was really in that Australian vibe. The main character also has a passion for photography. I didn't mention that. If you like books that have main characters that like art or photography or something, that is definitely in here. Especially old time photography, like with the photos you have to develop, that kind of photography, which was interesting because I don't know much about the whole development process of photography. It was a good listen for me, but it wasn't outstanding. It was good. And that's pretty much all I have to say on that. But if you, like me, are looking for more Australian books, maybe this is one that you can start with. And for more books to have these kind of elements, no romance, mental health, unusual family units, set in Australia. This book had all the things that I want books to have. So publishers, please come through and start giving us books like this. Also, that blue cover, that drew me in from the very beginning. It's so pretty. So the second book I read in December was Into the Crooked Place by Alexandra Christo. So I've read one other previous book by Alexandra Christo. Last year I read To Kill a Kingdom, and I really enjoyed this book. It's about a brutal murderous siren who gets banished from the underwater world and becomes human, and then a pirate ship picks her up and she has to masquerade as a human being and curb her murderous brutal instincts and learn to get along with this pirate prince captain, and there's this whole hate to love thing. It was a great time. I really liked how this was done, how the characters were developed, the dialogue was amazing. It was brutal, and yet the characters and the relationships just worked. And so when I saw this come out, I picked it up probably like last year or something, and I got around to reading it, and I really enjoyed this one. So this book is about a magical seedy city called Credgy, and there are many crooks and crime bosses and a dark underbelly to this city, and when a new magical drug potion comes on the scene, this group of crooks, criminals and unlikely candidates have to come together and eliminate the dark magic and the dark person behind that who is going to destroy their city. So you have Wesley, the underboss, who is basically like a crime lord in charge of this city. He runs the show. He tells the criminals what to do and where to go. He's extremely morally grey character because obviously he's a criminal, and he has an extremely bad, vicious reputation to keep this whole city in line. He's basically a mobster, and Wesley, although he has an extremely bad reputation, he doesn't always do the bad thing. It is his boss, the crime boss of this entire fantasy world, who is going to destroy the city that he is in charge of, and he's not going to let that happen. So he enlists a whole crew of crooks and criminals, including Tavia, who is a childhood orphan he knows, and she is a busker on the streets of Credgy, which means she is kind of like a swindler. She does side tricks and magic for the tourist. I'm pretty sure she does a lot of theft in the process. She also deals with certain illegal magics that get traded through the city. She's good with all the magic tricks tricks, and she's sneaky, she's quick, and she's Wesley's right-hand gal. Then you also have her friend Saxony, who is full of magic and is determined to avenge her family. She and Wesley do not get on, but the two have a common goal and decide to put all their differences aside to achieve this goal. So you've got these magical mages who are separate from these criminal worlds and are trying to keep their magic pure, and they don't sell magic to the general public anymore, so all of the magic in Craigie is pretty much illegal, smuggled trick magic, and that's the stuff that Tavia deals with. Saxony is out to avenge her family and the bad fates that have happened to the magicians throughout this world, and the magicians that are being used to create this evil magic that is coming through Craigie. And you have Karam, who is the fighter who has come from a town of warriors and left to come and be the biggest name in these fighting rings, and she basically becomes Saxony's bodyguard and lover. I love her. Karam is just great. She's a warrior to the core, and she is a total simp for Saxony. I love them too, they are so good. They are a female-female romance as well, which is amazing. And all of these characters, plus a few side characters, a team of criminal lackeys along the way, are going to try and fight this big bad boss and stop the magic from ruining the city. So I probably explained that in a really long-winded way, but this book was really, really fun. I loved the character interactions. All of the characters were extremely well written. They felt like real complex human beings, very morally grey. They're not exactly great people, but you root for them. All of their dialogue and interactions and banter is so good. I love the female-female romance and all the other friendship interactions, enemies to friend. They're such a fun group to follow. You're probably kind of already sensing this, but this book did give me a Six of Crow vibe. Now, I don't want to say that because it's not great to compare like a big popular book to just any old book, but this book really did give me that vibe. Like, it wasn't the same plot or anything, but if you can't tell by that synopsis, Wesley did have a Kaz vibe, Tavia had an Inej vibe, this magical dark city, ahem. So this book is very different from Six of Crows, but if you enjoy that book, you would probably enjoy this because it's got all those elements, those characters, the grey morality, the magical city, the seedy underbelly criminal element. You would probably really enjoy this book. I know I did. It's also a duology, and I need to get the second one. It comes out next year, or technically this year. I'm still not used to the fact that it is 2021, but I really enjoyed this. It's ended on a bit of a cliffhanger, and I really want to know what happens next. By the time I get to the second one, I'm probably going to have to reread this. I'm looking forward to giving this a reread and then reading the next one. This one was a fantasy, so it took me a while to get through. It was also a chaotic month being December, and you know, a lot of Xmas prep and stuff to do, but I really, really enjoyed this story, and if you like Six of Crows and things like that, you will probably enjoy this story too. Alexandra Christo is one of those authors that I'm really starting to trust. I've enjoyed both the books she's come out with so far, and they're both quite different, but I can tell they're written by Alexandra Christo. There's something about the way she writes characters and dialogue that are just very her, and I feel like this author could come up with a multitude of different worlds and characters and still be really interesting, and each of them be their own thing. This may become an auto by author because I'm really liking Alexandra Christo's work. If you haven't heard of this one, you should give it a try. That's why it's next to Six of Crows on my shelf. See, it all works. I love how the genre order flows so naturally. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about my bookshelves. The next book I read, or the next 3 books I read, were the trilogy that is Nevermoor by Jessica Townsend. So this is a magical middle grade. I've read this one and I've read the sequel Wondersmith, but for December I decided to reread the whole trilogy because the 3rd book Hollowpox came out and I got my hands on it. I knew that in the magical month of December I would like to read a magical middle grade, and this one was perfect for that. So I've reread Nevermoor. I absolutely love this series. Every single time I read it, I've probably read it about 3 times now. It never gets old. It's so homey and magical and whimsical, and I just absolutely love what this story does. It just feels like home. It's so kooky and fun and down to earth. If you are missing a Harry Potter shaped hole in your life, a series like this will give you all of those homey magical vibes without the turf behind it, so that's nice. I hate to compare it, but if you do love that magical home-like whimsical vibe, this book probably does it even better. I absolutely love the Nevermoor world. I love the characters that it introduces. I love the fantasy world that it has, all the magic. I think whimsical is the best word to sum up this entire series. It's just so sweet and lovely, and it has so many interesting talks in it too. The imagery is so vivid in your head. The atmosphere is so strong. You can smell it, you can hear it, you can feel it. You fully get immersed in the Nevermoor world, and Jessica Townsend is really good at making you feel at home here. So I reread Nevermoor and it was as good as it always has been. And I have to show the front naked cover because I do this every time I hold up this book, because it's the most glorious most front cover naked you have ever seen. Don't lie to me. So beautiful. So I reread this and loved every second of it. And I moved on and reread the sequel, Wondersmith. This also has a really naked cover, but I don't show it as often, so why not? I mean, it's just not quite as nice as the first one, but still really gorgeous. I had a really good time rereading Wondersmith and getting to know these characters and these situations again, and really feeling and fighting in Morrigan's corner. And lastly, Hollowpox. This is the one that only just came out and I'd never read before, so this was not a reread. This was my first time with Hollowpox. I'll be real with you, I'm not quite at the end yet. I'm almost there. This book is as good as its two predecessors. It's so good. I wasn't sure as if it's as good as Wondersmith and Nevermoor in the beginning, but when the Hollowpox storyline kicks in, oh my god, some of the talks and interesting topics and discussions that is brought up in this book, so good. There's this whole element of the Hollowpox, and then it kind of secretly tackles things like racism and mob mentality, fear, prejudice and discrimination. Oh my god, I'm really enjoying it. The plot line is so interesting and I'm really wondering where the ending is gonna go. But so far I'm super enjoying this book. I love the characters, I love the setting, and I feel so much magic and love when I read this series, and I root for Morrigan all the way. I love this series, and if you haven't read the Nevermoor trilogy, I highly recommend it. Enjoy the whimsy, it's just so good. I realise I haven't described what Nevermoor is even about. I should probably do that, huh? Nevermoor is about a girl called Morrigan who is a cursed child, and that means everything that goes wrong in her family and in her town is basically blamed on her. Her family despises her, they treat her like a piece of furniture, she is pretty well neglected and mentally abused as she grows up, and she's destined to die at her 11th birthday. But that doesn't quite happen. Instead, a mystical stranger sweeps in and takes her to the faraway secret land of Nevermoor, and she discovers this entire world of magic and craziness, and she has to fight for the right to live there. That's what this first book is about, and it's full of trials and her learning about this magical world and making friends in it and having to trust that her patron knows what he's doing. The second book is all about her fitting in this new world and some of the awful things that are happening, and how Morrigan hasn't quite got the family unit in Nevermoor she was hoping for, and it's all about her and her education in Nevermoor. And again, this last one is her learning about who she is and what she can do. I don't want to go too much into it because I don't want to spoil book 1 and 2, but in this one there is a virus that goes around. There is that element because 2020 did happen, and this one has some really interesting talks and situations. The plot is so good, I want to know what's going to happen next. I just love being in this world. If you haven't read this series, I highly recommend it. And as the last naked hardcover, let's have a look. We got the purple. Oh, look at that. Wow. Ooh, it's purple and gold and sparkly. Oh, it's pretty. The Nevermoor trilogy is amazing and magical, and I think you should read it because it's fun and you'll enjoy it. And if anybody has read the Nevermoor trilogy, talk to me in the comments because I'd love to talk about your favourite location or moment in the book or character. I would love to know because I don't really know anybody that's read Nevermoor, even though I know a lot of people have read it, and I would like to talk to one of you. Talk to me in the comments. So in between reading the Nevermoor trilogy, I took a break from it because it was Christmas and I read 2 Christmassy books to get myself in the mood, plus I had bought some Christmassy books. The 2 Christmassy books I read, the first one was This Winter by Alice Oseman. This book is one I talked a lot about in December for my winter one and my book haul as well. It's an extremely short book filled with loads of illustrations, loads of mixed media like this. I will only talk about this book briefly because I mentioned it so much in my recent videos. So this book is about 3 siblings who are having a bit of a difficult Christmas this year. The eldest boy sibling, he is gay and he's just come out, and also he has got an eating disorder. So this year's Christmas is quite difficult for him because obviously the food on the big day is stressing him out and it is quite a big issue for his mental health. So everyone is treating him like the freak who recently got out of that psych ward, and they think it's some crazy weird straitjacket place that they've seen on TV, and they're being quite insensitive to him about the eating disorder and about him being the token gay, and it's about him being stressed out by the holidays and all the extended family who don't understand you and the family drama that comes at Christmas. We've also got a main character, the girl, I can't remember any of their names now, but it's about her trying and wanting to support her brother and trying to get through the festive period, which she doesn't like much anyways. And it's about her on the big day trying to get through it and have a nice day, and their younger brother who doesn't really understand the older siblings and what they're going through, and just being a supportive bundle of joy. It's a super sweet, cute little novella basically about these 3 siblings at Christmas and how Christmas isn't always a wonderful, joyous, happy time. People still struggle, and it's really sweet, it's really cute. The romance between the 2 gay characters is super adorable. I love the main character and how supportive she was, and how her feelings of guilt of not being able to do enough and trying to take enough interest to be supportive, but also not try and bother and pester them and try and think of them as only this disorder. I thought she was super relatable. I am like that as well. I overstress a lot about whether am I taking too much notice? Am I not paying enough attention? How do I not be too much of one or the other? And I thought the littlest sibling was super adorable. The drawings in here are great. I understand why people love Alice Oseman's Heartstopper now. The drawings in this are really nice, and I can imagine her doing a great gay romance. This one certainly was. Like I said, it was a little bit short. That was my only complaint. It was a bit too short. There was a lot of the end of this book which was basically previewing another one of her books, and I was like, this book is already really slim, so if you take out a whole chunk of that, be promoting another book. It was very tiny. I enjoyed this book. I read it in one sitting super quickly on Christmas Eve, I think, and I had a really good time reading it. It was my perfect Christmas story, to be honest, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to read this every Christmas. The next Christmas book I read was Twas the Nightshift Before Christmas by Adam Kay. So this is the real life true recollections of an NHS worker who has worked over many a Christmas, especially since he had no children. So the NHS workers who don't have children don't really get prioritised to have time off at Christmas. Adam Kay has another book out before this one which was called This Is Going to Hurt, and this was him talking about all of the stories and moments that he has experienced over Christmas. It was very funny, very sad at moments, because obviously we're in a hospital at Christmas, there's going to be sadness, but it was also quite silly and funny, and him talking about some really weird stories that have happened, weird occasions. It really is humanising the NHS workers and people who work in these kind of industries, that they're doing their job, but also they're human beings. They don't always get things perfectly, and it's them trying to pretend they're these perfect robots when they're not. Him talking about the exhaustion, but also the fulfillment, but also wanting time off, but also being okay with being there at Christmas. It's that whole duality of the job. I really enjoyed a lot of the stories. Adam Kay definitely has a witty style of writing. It's very dry and satirical and quite silly, but also very adult. It was a fun book. I really enjoyed reading it. Again, I read this in a couple of sittings, I think. I didn't take long to read it, and it was fun to learn about a gynecologist in the NHS over Christmas. So if you're interested in that topic, I think this was a fun book, and now I'm kind of curious to see what This Is Going to Hurt was like. I wonder if I should pick up that book and see what his first book was like, because I did enjoy his writing style and I thought it was funny and nice to read and learn about, so I really enjoyed this and I'm glad I read it for Christmas. I'm also going to give this to my mum and dad-in-law, which I mentioned about in my winter wants video, or was it my haul? I don't remember, because I think they would get such a kick out of this. And that was it, the 7 books I read in December. After I finished those Christmassy books, I went back to the Nevermoor trilogy, so I kind of read all of those in a weird order, but I read them all. And that was the books I read in December of 2020. It was a bit of a slower reading month for me, like I said, because it was Christmas and there was a lot of crazy preparation. Because I got no money, I had to make presents for people, so I got really stressed. I was like, I hate Christmas. It stresses me out. The pressure. But I ended up having a really nice Christmas, despite the lockdown and everything. I hope you had a nice Christmas and a nice New Year as well. I usually do something fun for New Year, but this year, me and my boyfriend just stayed home and we had a movie and board game day, a little dance to fireworks going on outside at midnight. It was cute. It was nice. I hope you had a good Christmas and New Year, and let me know, what books did you read in December and did they finish off the year well for you? And if you'd like to talk to me about any of the books I mentioned, go ahead. I'd love to talk to you about some of these. I know they're not super popular. Nevermoor's probably the most popular, so please let me know down in the comments if you've read it, because I'd love to talk to you about it. Thank you so much for watching me for a whole nother year. I am so excited for all my January videos. I cannot wait to do those. I absolutely love it. It's my favourite time. And then for the rest of 2021, I've got some fun ideas planned and things I want to do. So with my new shelves, it is a new year and I'm excited to bring you along with me. So welcome to 2021 on BookTube, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.